time is now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. I call, please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the town charter requirements, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 at 7 p.m. Monday, June 2025 in the Plainfield High School Auditorium, 105 Putnam Road, Central Village, Connecticut, 06332. All electors of the town and eligible property owners who wish to be heard will be allowed to do so at this hearing. Before I open up the floor, I welcome the superintendent. If he has any opening comments that he would like to share.
I would just like to thank everyone for their participation in the process thus far. I don't even know if there's any new comments that I need to make to the leader points that I've made earlier. We are available for questions. Our full budget with recent reductions has been fully updated for transparency on the district website. It is on the main website under Plainfield Public Schools budget. Thank you for the support of the town this time.
And First Sword.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairman. The Plainfield Town budget is currently at $182,429 more than the current fiscal year budget. That is a 1% increase with this proposal. All town departments see utility increases the same as homeowners. We see the cost of inflation, purchase services we pay for now for each year for gas and oil and highway and salt, bituminous material, insurance is much more. Just like you, we do have just concerns. While we hear the phrase, just live within your means, we also have to be respectful of the services that the town supplies to its residents. Comparing our initial budget proposed as of today, the town started with a request to increase our budget of $1,017,429, and with two failed budgets, have now cut $835,000 of services, and are down to 1% increase. The official ballot for the town of Plainfield includes two budget-related questions, and I ask that you consider voting to approve all questions. Thank you.
Before I give the guidelines for tonight, and open the floor, there's a couple of some data I would like to share. We've had two referendums, they both failed. We have 3 rounds of cuts, accumulating $1,915,000. The impact has been felt by the school, the town, and the police department. If you'd like to know specifics, I'm sure that the chief of police, the superintendent, and the first sergeant will give you more details. That brings us to a mill rate increase, proposed mill rate increase of 0.46. How does that equate to what you have to pay for taxes? If your house is appraised at $428,000, it is assessed at $300,000. That means your annual tax increase would be $138, or $11.50 a month, or $2.65 a week. This afternoon, I bought a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, a small. It cost me $2.78. We've lost a lot already. Can we afford to lose more? The tax increase represents 2.2% increase. Recent statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, utilizing the CPI Consumer Price Index, gives us, as of April, an inflation rate of 2.3. Again, what we're looking at is 2.2. The cost of everything goes up, including running the town. At this point, I will open up the floor to anyone who wishes to make a comment, I have a few guidelines. First of all, please state your name and whether or not you're a resident. I'd also ask that you keep your comments to 3 to 5 minutes max, and limit your turn to mic to 1, so that everybody could have a chance to comment as they so desire. So at this point, I will open the mic to the public.
My name is Amy Smith. I live in Plainfield. Can you hear me? No, we can't hear you. No.
Thank you.
Now can you?
Yes, thank you.
My name is Naomi Smith. I live in Plainfield. I've been attending many of the budget meetings. One of the things that came to my attention, and I wanted to ask some questions about this. There was a posting of one of the prior budgets on Facebook, and I took an opportunity to look at it over the weekend. And under Public Works, it stated transfer station for $200,000, and then 4 or 5 line items down, it says create transfer station, include engineer, and papers, and there's no budgeted amount for that. So my question is, by voting for the transfer station on the capital improvement plan, is this a bypass? Will this project at any time be presented to the town for a public hearing for questions or concerns or support that the residents may have? Or by doing it this way, is the residents voting yes inadvertently to a project that they are not understanding?
That is a great question. I have one for you. Could you give me the date on when that posting was made?
The posting?
Yes.
The posting was over the weekend.
This past weekend.
Yes.
Okay, I wondered, sir, first of all, if you'd like to address that with the transfer station, please.
Just because I couldn't hear everything you asked, was that the Turnpike Iron, the one page?
No, this was a posting from Carla Desjardins on over the weekend on the residents page, and it was showing comparisons to previous budgets. And so, I can show you what I printed out, if that helps. But it says create transfer station and include engineering papers, and there's no budgeted item.
Could you show me that? I didn't see it.
We're just going to change microphones really quick.
So I'll see if I can answer that. We have a plan which we'd like to be able to propose to the public to show what is the advantage of having.
Turn it off.
So the idea for the transfer station, can you hear me now? Is that okay? All right. The idea for the transfer station is, I think we spoke about it at the last meeting, how we have been working with trying to make it so that it's cost effective to the residents to have a transfer station. Right now, I think it's $265,000 that we pay for a company to do our transfer station work. There is a way that other towns do it. A lot of towns around us do the same exact thing, where they use a scale system, and they have it so that it calibrates the scale so that you can come in, you get weighed, on the way back out, you get weighed again, and you pay as you go, pay right there. So therefore, as the other towns do it, and they all break even, this is an idea that we were looking to put to the public to say, we can save you $265,000 in your annual taxes. That isn't just 265, but they're looking to do another contract, and they've been bumping their numbers up tremendously. So we anticipated that we come back with trying to make a higher rate of pay annually. So I will make a presentation to the public. I'll show them how it's supposed to work. And this is something that I think would work for us because, again, I'm not looking forward to paying a lot more taxes on something that we shouldn't have to expend that much money for.
So I'm not in support or against the transfer station. My issue isn't with the budgeted amount. My issue is the transparency of it. Because, like you're explaining this to me this evening, but there aren't a lot of residents that may be aware this is in the capital, that may not be aware and want to come back later on with questions and, concerns. So my concern when I saw that was, is it kind of like an end run? Should this be something taken off and brought back later as just an independent project, and the Board of Finance later asked for an appropriation from the fund account to give the public time to ingest this, ask their questions, have it presented, any concerns that may come, because right now we don't have enough information. So that concerns me. That's why I brought this up. Like I said, I can't speak for or against it, so it's also making it very difficult for me to be in support of the capital improvement budget because I don't have all the questions answered. And I don't even have time to compile what all my questions may be because I don't know enough about transfer stations.
I appreciate that. I will actually be putting something up in video format and let people understand what it is because you know that all those things are five-year capital or things that we'd like to do. That's money actually comes out of purchasing the scale, purchasing a shed for the staff to be able to work at, making sure that the scale is calibrated, understanding what the per pound cost is over the last 10 years so you can calibrate it out. I think that this is something, again, I would be able to come up with a public meeting on it, but I'd like to put it in there for right now so that we can actually, if we do plan on going forward with it, then money's there.
The portion of creating the station that is going to be eliminated, I don't see that on the current that's presented tonight. So am I understanding that portion has been removed?
I didn't hear the first part.
So the portion, the page that I showed you, where it said to create the transfer station engineering and papers with no budgeted amount, that portion is not on tonight's presentation that was handed out, presented by the door. So is that no longer on the capital improvement?
This is on the capital. This is on capital improvement. It is also the five-year capital plan. It's also part of that fund balance. So it's there.
I just caution the Board of Finance. I don't think your job is to create or pass projects without the legislative body. I think we're getting into some gray area doing that. And I think it might come back and bite. So I think that should be removed. That's just my opinion. I think that's an independent project that should be presented to the public as its own and have public hearing. I think by technicality, the Board of Finance doing it this way, you're going to bypass the vote of the people. It will not require a town meeting vote. It won't require a public hearing. And given a lot of comments that are already circulating around, that will not be in the best interest. The other concern I have is, I know at the recent Board of Finance meeting and the Board of Selectmen meeting following, there was discussion about the money being put back for Project N, but I don't see it on the line item tonight. So is that being put back or is it not?
It is being put back. It's my fault. And we had to talk to the finance director about how we can use that line and properly allocate funds.
I mean, I know that two parties did the fundraiser. That was an amazing thing that they did. And I know Ag donated money. But when Mr. Kettle spoke on Winnie, he commented there are 1,000 people a month roughly around 957, let's say 1,000, that he's servicing at Project 10. That's a high number of people. So they really need that money. We could be throwing around 200,000, inflated, cost of things. think the town should dig a little there. And again, I'm not in support of the transfer station being on this budget at all. I think the recreation department, some of the costs there are a little high. We could cut back on some of them. I know other residents have spoken needs versus wants, and it's true. And Mr. Gorman, I would like to say as a resident, if you're looking at the assessments on houses and what the taxes are, and you're saying $2.64, some people are paying $4,000 a year for their property taxes. So for those people, $2.64 more is a lot to ask on top of a $400 or $500 set aside a month to come up with their $4,000 for the year. So I would be cautious with $2.64. If you're a senior citizen or retired and you're living on $1,500 to $2,000 a month, we have costs from Eversource, we have food costs that have risen, $400 or $500 coming out a month on your property taxes, vehicle taxes, $2 more a week makes a big, big difference. Younger people feeding their families, I know there's a lot of struggle right now. So I just want to caution that $2 may not seem a lot to a lot of people in this town, but to a lot of us, it is a lot. I mean, you have to look at our poverty rate, you have to look at our income rates coming in. Somebody had said the median, I looked it up, 61,000 for a family of how many? That's not a lot of money when you break it down per month, per week. So $2.64, maybe someone's child for lunch for the week. So consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I've been at the past few boards of finance and selection meetings hoping to see either of both groups come to the reasonable conclusion that your constituents cannot afford yet another dip into their pockets. As an aside, I want to point out that the proposed budget summary page appears to not have been updated online. Property tax income was not changed to reflect the proposed decrease in mill rate, so the summary page does not correlate to the town clerk submission of June 4th. I have some questions if you'll indulge me, and I don't expect answers right now. Why are we still seeing 3% or higher raises for non-contract town employees rather than pay freezes for this year? Please explain why we're seeing unnecessary additions to staff like a human resource manager when that function belongs to the first selectman's position. Why are we adding an entire engineering department with its affiliate benefits? Why is the recreation budget as large as it is? It seems that there is limited availability of the pool and the other services seem to be priced high. You added $200,000 transfer station. I understand that it's out of the fund balance, but it's not necessary or wanted. Has there been an RFP for this? Exactly why is it needed and who will benefit when we already pay for trash removal privately? Further, per Article 16, Section 1 of the Board of Finance Regulations and Procedures, and I quote, the Board of Finance will have the final authority on the use of the fund balance, end quote. This expenditure should be denied. Why do we have a contracted ambulance services for $80,000 per year? Don't they also charge me, the patient, and my medical insurance company in the unfortunate event of rescue if needed? Isn't it double dipping? Has this service gone out for RFP? What is the actual usage and what is the cost per call? The chief previously indicated that the police pension does not need to be funded at its current proposed budget level of over $400,000. There are not imminent retirements and the police pension is healthy. If you insist on that funding, why not do so over the next 3 to 4 years, thereby allowing a return of previously cut funding of these extremely essential services? Citizen safety must be priority one. The first selectman previously mentioned the potential tax revenue we have coming in for a new line at Amazon come online. Does that mean that you plan to spend all of that extra money outside of the budget, even if it comes to fruition this year? Or will you consider a mill rate increase? I say that with tongue planted firmly in cheek. Obviously, decreases don't happen. The voters clearly said no to the past two budget offerings. I doubt they were expecting to see employee increases still in this latest budget, or even more cuts to essential services. Ladies and gentlemen, do the right thing on behalf of your neighbors. Freeze all salary increases. Visit each line item and do that with the needs of the resident of Plainfield at the forefront, not ego and not your lives. Thank you.
Mary Landry moves up. While I agree that I cannot afford $2.64 more a week, I can't see how we cannot give you the $2.64 a week. We cannot afford to take any more from our safety. We cannot afford to cut any more security. We cannot afford to not have a resource officer at our school's disposal. We need to think of these things. Yes, I struggle too. But I cannot put our youth's safety, our town's safety, your safety at risk by saying no. Please, understand they're doing their best, and we need to support what they're trying to do and not take more from our safety.
Is there anyone else?
Would the transfer station need to go to a town referendum to be put into place? I just didn't hear that in the answer.
I can't quite understand it. You're not near the mic.
I know.
Sorry.
Dean,
I can be pretty.
she wants to know if the transfer station will have to go to a town referendum if it is going forward.
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's what she's looking for.
But that's a great question.
I just didn't hear it when we were answering Naomi. I heard, and I didn't expect her to ask again. So I just wanted to make sure that, so that everyone's on the same page. If this $200,000 in the budget is approved, would it still need to go to a vote? So if we can get that answer to the public, that would be great. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Gorman. If Mr. Cunningham's here, could he address that? If Mr. Cunningham's here, could he address that and answer the question?
Sure.
Please.
It's in the budget right now for this passage if you go through. Again, you're going to get informational meetings, but I'm still, just to clarify one thing, I'm still in negotiations with the company to see what they can do for us. So if I don't have to spend it, we can go to another contract. The problem again is how much is that contract going to be? So I plan on putting out an information meeting to the public and see what they'd like to do.
So would that be formulated as first a public hearing and then a town meeting?
We we already have a public informational meeting.
So by technicality, a vote on the capital with the fund balance, 200,000, bypasses a town meeting vote on the project, which is what my concern was coming here tonight, addressing the board. So the public hearings will be at the discretion only of Mr. Cunningham with no town vote later on for the project.
Correct.
Is
That would be correct.
Is that
And
clarified?
but that goes for every single item in the fund balance.
Pick one out for me, Mr.
Oh,
Cunningham.
road repair, $300,000. You have to have a town meeting for that?
What's that?
You shouldn't have to have a town meeting for $300,000 on road repair.
I think it depends. So I would agree that the road repair doesn't, just like the town hall ramp could be on the capital improvement, but I think the transfer station is a separate project that we already have our town contracted with another company. So road poses safety issues, ramp poses safety issues. I'm not sure where we have a safety issue with what we're doing now. So this is where I just see them a little differently in my perspective, which again is why I would love to have the public hearings and an opportunity to vote later on when I'm more informed, as I think a lot of people would be.
Is there anyone else?
Would you like? Mr. Gorman, could I have latitude to speak and to ask for questions?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. So I'm going to ask Ms. Lynn questions for her this evening. She would like to know if it's possible going forward, or if it could be done tonight. Maybe the chief could address this. In some of the department heads, maybe the Board of Finance, because you met with all of them, why our budgets do not prioritize. So what are the most, pressing needs of the police department? She wants to know why, everything's kind of muddled in and there's no priority. Is that kind of, okay? That's perfect. Thank you.
I think if you talk to first of all, if you talk to the superintendent, he would give you what his priorities are. If you also went to the chief of police, he would also give you what his priorities are. You're saying that the first selectman. To better understand the whole budget process, the budget process planning begins almost a day after a previous budget is passed. Because then we have a chance to look back at what has changed within that budget process. They in turn, each department, each principal, chief of police, each department head begins to work on their budget. And they reflect upon what took place the prior year, what their expenses are. They have to anticipate what some of the increases are going to be, whether it's gas, electricity, or some of these other things that come into play with union contracts. So even when they turn their budgets in, to the first term in, back in February, from February to May, there's things that happen that can change, even the day after they turn it in. So no budget is perfect. And we have moving parts throughout that process. In the course of each referendum, the voters tell us, no, this is too much. We don't want this. So we have to come back and we have to make adjustments. The chief of police has to make some adjustments, and he in turn has to prioritize, well, what do I absolutely need, and what can I maybe wait on? All right? And the same with the first selectman, and the same with the superintendent. So there's always changes taking place. And even during the course of the 3 months of meetings, people speak out and they say, all right, well, this is something we're concerned about. And then we take an opportunity, if it's there, to make that adjustment in that direction. The other thing that I will tell you is that even during the course of the year, just a month ago, we had what we call line item transfers. And what happens is we project expenses on a certain level for a department. Well, we caught some breaks. We're not going to spend as much, but this department, this line item, we're spending more than we anticipated. Now, that could be an insurance cost. That could be the price of gas. That could be a change in the utility costs, but we have to make adjustments. But the thing that we try to do is to try to listen. And at least I try to take in everything that is shared, and then we try to come up with what we feel the public wants us to do as best we can. Now, I will also say some voices are a lot louder than others. So we hear them, and we also have a tendency to gravitate to people who we agree with. All right? But that really doesn't accomplish anything. What we need to do is we need to come together and find out what's best for the town. Now, it might not be something I'm totally happy with, but if it's what's best for the town, that's what matters. At the beginning of the meeting, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. We said one nation under God, and we are one town. We are neighbors. We don't need to go away to another part of the country because we don't disagree, we don't agree on something. We live around the corner from each other, and we have to find a way to make things work. Right? Is any budget perfect? Absolutely not. It never is. Even my household budget's not perfect. You know, I think I'm going to spend this much this week, and no, it blows up in my face. A prime example is I just had to rip off a part of my car because it's falling apart and I can't drive it and hanging down the road. I didn't plan on that, but now I got a budget for it. Do I have an expense account for my car? Yeah, really, maybe I should plan my budget. I think I know what's going to cost for it to fix, but the longer I wait, the more expensive it's going to be. So I appreciate everybody that has contributed to this process and the comments that you've made. If you want to look at my notebook, I take as many notes as I can because I want to hear what you have to say.
Mr. Gorman, if I can add to this from your comments.
Sure.
I don't have to say. One of the pieces that I would just like to add, because I thought your question on priorities is an interesting one. If I can give context, the most recent document from the Board of Ed that you have, which is about 12 pages, is a short document. If you were to go back to our first document that we presented in our first public meeting in January, that document's about 200 pages long. The first 10 pages of that are exactly what you're asking for. They're what are our budget priorities? And we prioritize the top items, student safety, what we're doing in reading. I'm excited.
I'm a former English teacher. We're going to like this. If you go back and look at those items, we prioritize them really clearly there. And then when we do each set of cuts, we come back to them. We had parents come and speak about wanting a resource officer. That was never cut. But I think your point is a good one. When I publish something like this that has our most recent cuts, it might help for us to go back and say, as a reminder, here's a shortened version of what our priorities were back in January, because we're in June now, and I think it's a disconnect. So I appreciate your suggestion. Our team will talk about what we have online. I may also be adding microphones in the future.
I can go down if you want, but I'm going to... Oh, it's not working down.
As a lifelong resident of Brewster, I've kind of lived through all the ways to get rid of garbage and trash in town. And obviously, like Mr. Gorman stated, they listen to people. I've attended most of the meetings this year, watching all online. Everyone's voiced concern towards this transfer station. I haven't really heard anybody really be in favor of it. I'd like to learn more about it, but just some of the things, I remember, Kevin, you had mentioned that the $200,000, there was some permitting that you needed to do and stuff like that. So what does this $200,000 get us? Because I'm looking at logistics of $200,000, then it has to be staffed. There's overtime. Now we get dump taxes 6 free trips a year, now we're paying. So where are we benefiting from this? In this budget, $200,000, does this take effect this year, or are we just scratching the surface to get this up and running? If it takes effect this year, in the overtime for the highway budget, is that money reflected in there to pay them to work it? Is this open on Saturdays during snowstorms? Who's going to man it? There just seems like a lot of questions logistically. And the garbage business was a terrible deal for us the last time we had it. You were lined up on Plainfield Road trying to get there. It was like going to get a haircut at Hoovie's. If you didn't get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, you weren't going to get into the dump line. So, again, there just seems to be more of, if it's coming out of the fund balance and it's 200, obviously everyone's concerned about how much we're expending this year. It seems like an easier number to reduce the budget by 200, provide some good data for everybody going forward, and then get an approval later on. The money will be there in the fund balance if it's needed. But I mean, it's 200,000. That's a very big number when we're, trying to wipe out taser programs for PD. But yet there's this unknown 200 for a project that we don't, because you could negotiate a good deal with the current provider, Willie Waste, or Casella, whoever it is. It just seems like we're at the finish line here trying to get a budget, but don't have all the answers. So that's just some of the questions I have for you.
Plainfield. I just have a question for the Board of Finance. Are you comfortable leaving that $200,000 in the transfer station and bypassing the voice of speaking? Are you comfortable with that?
You're kind of comfortable.
That's my throat. It's a little sore. Are you comfortable to bypass the voices of people by leaving that $200,000 in that line item for the transfer? He said it right there. Once it goes through, you give consent to that project when you vote. So, are you comfortable leaving it?
I think one of the things that I'm here tonight is the bulk of the people that have spoken up, Mr. Belvance and yourself and some other people. The transfer station is an item that has brought a lot of attention. Am I comfortable with it? I think I still have a few questions myself. But I also think that if we're not getting the type of service that we're expecting from another provider, then we need to have an option to go forward. Are there some questions that need to be answered? Yes, I think some of them have brought up tonight.
But if it gets passed in the budget, that conversation will not be had.
Well, even if this passes in the budget, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go through. And it could be something that could be withdrawn.
It's up to the hip. It's up to the select. As he says, once it goes through, it's a done deal. He'll have a hearing on it, but nobody will have a say.
Let me add to that. It gives us the opportunity to go forward. But in the last year of the current contract, I'm trying to renegotiate the contracts as a little more favorable. The problems are that we are putting $265,000 into that transfer station at this point using Casella Waste. And I think we can do better because other towns are doing the exact same thing by having a scale at their site. I can purchase a scale, I can calibrate it, I can get it included in the entire cost for pounds per is the 10-year factor of how much poundage was sent out. You cost factor that in with the what it's going to cost you for another company to come and take it out of there. You also calibrate into that scale the cost for the overtime for the staff. It's no longer going to be a pass for 7 times. It's back to what we used to do at the transfer station with 104 Wednesday and Saturday. So it's 104 visits. So that takes $256,000 out of there. I will give a public informational meeting on it to explain all the process to it. But I think it's something we have to start looking at now. because that contract ends in, June 30th of 2026. So I can't renegotiate their deal. It gives us an opportunity then to start processing our own.
But that still should be a conversation with the people. So I might say, you can say this is going to be on call for a vote in the town meeting for that project.
If this is passed, it gives us the opportunity to put
It is an opportunity, but will it be on call for a vote with the legislative body in the town meeting?
What if I negotiate a better deal?
No. It won't.
Well, then that happens, but it should be talked about first. But if you don't, if it's not a good idea, what if they stay open and they outbid you on the cost for delivery? Because then it's not going to go out of business because you put a transport system. They're going to try to be competitive.
Not sure, I couldn't quite hear everything, so.
And someone's not just going to close up because you open a transfer
That's
station.
not true. They've taken other towns, they go on the scale and they get paid.
Right, and then I'm sure other people will want to go there too, if they're competitive in their price. We don't know what they're going to charge. That's not a given.
So I know that a lot of the towns, municipalities, and individuals use that right now. So they're not, I don't believe they're going to go out of business.
No, I'm just saying, just because we did it, it's not like they're not going to compete with us. They're still going to try to do business.
We are looking for this transfer station to be for Plainfield residents.
I know that. But they're going to try to compete and get some business, and it's not going to lose Plainfield business, I'm sure. But my point is if this gets passed on the budget, there will be no vote by the town.
Right.
So this is on the board of finance. This is your decision. If you're comfortable with that, leave it on. If you're not, take it off. But this is your financial responsibility. And people will be looking at you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If there is no one else, then I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, go ahead, second. Motion to adjourn, again seconded. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out, and thank you all for your contributions.